Well, I often have little projects that I start and then never finish. Today I have a project that I'm going to try to start and finish. We'll see how that goes, but it is this little salt lamp that I have here at night. I'll turn off my regular blinding lights that you see here. Let me turn those off for a second. And you can see that this provides a nice little glow at night. I really like this little light, but it needs some help. So I'm going to try to start this and finish this project today. Now let me give you a little bit of background if you're not familiar with these salt lamps. These are often referred to as a Himalayan salt lamp. And that's a little bit odd because they're not from the Himalayas, but they are indeed made of salt, and they are salt that has a lot of minerals embedded in it, and so that's what gives it its color. So even when the light is not on, you can see it has kind of a peachy or pinky type color to it. And the idea with these lamps is that they would have a little light embedded in the base of them like this one does, and when that light heats up the salt, salt molecules would release into the air and kind of help clean your indoor air quality. Now, I'm not really sure if that works. I'm not saying it works. I'm not saying it doesn't. I use this lamp because I like the look of it. I like the glow that it gives off, especially at night when I'm trying to get ready for bed. This is much more preferable versus my really strong, heavy lighting that I use here, that I need because this is great for when I'm chopping or cooking anything on my work surface here. It's great for that, but not so great for trying to get ready for bed at night. So this is a great little lamp for me to have. Trouble is, I am not getting any benefits off of the salt lamp itself, if that does indeed work, because this is not a lamp that warms up necessarily. This is an LED lamp, and so it's not really warming the salt up at all. So I'm not getting any kind of health benefits off of the salt lamp, if there are any to be had. But also, when I bought this from a discount store called TJ Maxx, and it was on one of their clearance racks because there was a little break in the wiring. The light still works, but it is really starting to fray away here, and so it's going to need to be repaired at some point. And I thought, rather than just repair the wiring itself, why don't I try to turn this into a real salt lamp and give it an actual bulb that will heat up the salt, and maybe I'd get some benefit off of it. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. And I'm also going to try to work on my lighting here. Since I'm going to be into my electrical system, I might as well try to make some improvements while I can. But first, coffee. Hey, a cup of coffee's right here. Oh, that was fast. Now, this salt lamp has been really convenient for me because it works off of USB, and quite some time ago I wired up a USB outlet on a switch that's right below my work surface here. So it's been really convenient for me to be able to just plug this in and be able to turn it on or off easily. But I'm going to go with a different way here. Since I'm going away from an LED light, I'm going to move to a more traditional light. So I went to a hardware store way back when I was in Seattle, before I left the Seattle area. I bought a very basic 12-volt lamp holder, and then I found a very small wattage lamp that would fit this holder. So what I'm going to try to do is fit this 12-volt assembly up into the old salt lamp here, see if I can make it work. Now, I should just point out that I'm not an electrician, I'm not an engineer, I'm just somebody that wants to change the setup of the salt lamp, and I have a very basic knowledge of electrical systems, and so this may not be the right way to do it. Of all the dozens of ways that I'm sure that there are to do it, this is the way I'm choosing to do it because this is what I found at the hardware store in Seattle. So not doing this the correct way, and I don't really even know if this is going to work. But it's something I want to try to do since it's getting to be really difficult to find incandescent bulbs nowadays. I figured since I was able to find one, it was probably the right time just to try to get this little project underway. You know, the one problem with drinking really good coffee like I'm drinking here, this is some of my last of my Humboldt's finest here that I am drinking, really good stuff, is that I just drink it right down and then I'm out of it. But I'm gonna just not make another cup right yet, and we'll just move along on this process. I guess probably this is a good time to turn this off and unplug it, since this is electricity we're working with. Although this is just 5 volts, that's all there is with USB, so it's not like I'm going to get a shock off of it. Now I'm hoping I can just remove these screws and get to the LED here. It's hard to see what I'm doing at the moment. We'll remove the old LED that's in here and fit in the new piece. And I don't know if this is really going to work, but there's only one way to find out, isn't there? I'm really kind of wondering if this is going to go back together again easily. But so far, it's looking pretty good. It's a slightly different construction than I was imagining. The LED is set into a little hole in the base. So let me try to prise this out and see if I can maybe, hopefully not damage the LED. In case the new bulb in fitting doesn't work, I can always hopefully put the LED back in place. Well, rats, that didn't work. They have this filled with hot melt glue. So in trying to get this out of there, I just busted it. So that means the new bulb assembly is going to have to work. I think the first order of business, though, is I'm going to get my drill out and drill this hole straight through, because it'll help me be able to mount the new assembly in place, I think. Well, in my opinion, there are a few tools that everybody should have. One of those is a cordless drill, or even a corded drill if you've got a way to power it. But this is nice to just be able to have, to be able to work on whatever you might need it to do. Also, a decent set of drill bits, which I have some here, but I'm going to be using this step drill bit. Somebody recommended me to get one of these a long time ago, and it was a very good suggestion. This drill bit has been really handy to have. Bought this at Harbor Freight, and it was pretty cheap. I think it was less than 10 bucks, maybe less than 15 bucks, something like that. Okay, my idea was to drill this out to be able to fit the new assembly in place, which we have done. So that looks good. We can move on now. So this is going much better than I anticipated. This fits up through there, and the hole that was already drilled into the salt is big enough to fit the new bulb in assembly. So I'm liking all that. I do think I'm gonna just cut a slot out of this to fit the wiring so that this could sit flat. So that'll just take me a second to do that. And then I can just attach this thing to the base and we're all done. I just need to wire it up, which is sort of the hardest part of this whole process. Now I'm saying difficult, but it's really not going to be difficult at all, because I have a bunch of unused light switches over here. Several years ago, my light switch, or my main lighting here that is up above my work area, broke, and so I went and bought this light switch panel, and that gives me some extra light switches that I can just tie this new light into. So all that is going to entail is just me running one wire over to get some power to this light switch, and that should be a fairly quick and simple job. I actually already bought the wiring for that back when I bought this light holder. It's just one of those things, you know, that I start these projects and then I just don't finish. But we're going to finish today, although I am a little bummed. I'm out of coffee already, totally out. This is terrible. I just realized I'm making this harder than it needs to be. I don't need to make a little slot in the bottom of this because of how I'm going to mount this. I'm just going to put this back on this little bracket that I have off of the backsplash for my stove. I just have this screwed up into place normally, so that's what I'm going to do with it. So I don't really need to make any extra adjustments for the wire because the wire is just going to hang off the side. So I just move on to just putting in a little screw to hold the light assembly in place on the bottom of the base and then run my wiring over. Yeah, why make things harder? Okay, I've got the lamp all together and I put a little screw in the bottom to hold the lamp assembly in place. And now I'm just going to remount this back in its spots, and then I can run the wiring. I forgot one of the steps I was going to do. One of the problems with these salt lamps is they do collect a little bit of moisture out of the air, and they'll start to drip salt water. You might be able to see I've got some salt water drips along the little bracket here. And so to try to minimize that, I bought some cork coasters. I really like cork. I use cork for a number of things. These are really cheap at a discount store around Seattle. What I did was I took one of them and I just drilled a hole in it, and I'll fish the wires up through here, and hopefully this will act the way a coaster does for everything else and keep some of the drips on the coaster. I may have to swap out the coaster from time to time as it gets filled up full of salt water, but I thought this might be an easy way to go. I did think about putting a dish underneath this, but I didn't want to have something that I would have to empty all the time because, well, I'll just forget, honestly. So I'm gonna try the coaster thing. If it doesn't work, I'll go with the dish method. Now I can put this in place. I'll just screw this in place. So a few years back I had to rebuild all this because I used to have an old salt lamp very similar to the one that I have now, and it was sitting right here, and because of that moisture issue, that it just draws moisture out of the air and then drips, it just kind of ruined the cabinet here. So I had a piece of particle board, and the particle board just like swelled up like a kitchen sponge, and I had to come through here and just totally rebuild this whole face, which I thought if I have to get back in here again in the future, I should make it a little bit easier. So what I did with this one is I have some hinges on this side, and then this is just held in place on this side with a single screw, so that way I can take the screw out and open up this like a little door basically and be able to get back in here. You don't want to look back in here. It's a mess of wiring. I really should have did a better job of cleaning up the wiring, but yeah, it's ugly, but it's all safe. But I'm still not going to show you what it looks like. Anyway, now that I have this opened up, I'm going to run a new wire from one of these switches. I think I'm going to pick this one and then just run it back along and over to the new salt lamp location. So I'm just feeding this new wire in through with the rest of the wiring that I have here. One of the nice things about having a system like mine that's really simple is that there's nothing to be afraid of. This is just 12-volt wiring, and I'm wiring this to a switch that is hooked up to a fuse panel. So there's not a whole lot that is going to go wrong, and there's certainly nothing to be afraid about. The great thing about 12 volts is you're not really going to get shocked if you do something wrong. You will blow a fuse. That's about the worst thing that's going to happen. Or maybe blowing a bulb, because now that I'm not near Seattle, I can't easily get another one of those bulbs. I'm sure I could find one around somewhere, but I bought that whole setup there at a place called McClendon's Hardware, and it's an old-time hardware store around Seattle. They've got a bunch of locations around Seattle, and it's just really cool that they're still around, because that kind of stuff used to be easy to find back in the day, and nowadays there's just very few good hardware stores around, which is why I bought that stuff back then, even though I wasn't really prepared to do this then. I just figured since I had McClendon's available, I should take advantage of the fact that they've got stuff like this on hand. Hopefully they'll still carry stuff like this in the future, but you never know. You know, a lot of this stuff is kind of just going to the wayside. You know, they want us to use LED bulbs, and you can see, like, from this angle, these bulbs are just really just bright and intense, and they're really kind of annoying in one way in that they're just super bright. When I'm cooking or something, or even just getting ready in the morning, I kind of want some bright lighting so that I can see well and not have eye strain. But like in a case like right now, this is way too much lighting, really. So hopefully if I get this done quickly, I'll tackle a little bit of this lighting too, make some adjustments to it, because it's a little much. Okay, I've made my connections, and before I button this back up again, put the screw to hold this back in place, I'm going to turn it on and see if it works. So I pick this switch. Hey, there we go. Swing it around here. It works just fine. So one little observation here is that the new bulb is a little bit brighter than the old LED bulb, which is good. I was hoping to get a little more usable light off of this for nighttime. I can just leave this on and be able to do stuff. I've got my camera lighting on right now, so it's a little brighter in here than it would be with just the salt lamp on by itself, but otherwise you wouldn't be able to see me at the moment, although that would probably be a plus for most of you anyway. Anyway, I'm going to leave this on, and hopefully it will get a little bit warm. It's not getting warm yet, but it's only been on for about 10 minutes at this point in time. But we'll see if it actually gets warm and actually makes the salt lamp work the way it's supposed to work. And one thing I forgot to mention is I only had to run one wire across the van to the switch plate and fuse panel because I actually have a grounding block up in the cabinet here. You can probably just barely see it up here. So that means that I was able to run the ground wire just to this point. So I only needed a short piece of wire for that. Pretty cool. I wish I'd known about those early on when I first did the wiring in the van here, but I didn't know anything about that. So I had all kinds of wires going back and forth. And an engineer friend of mine took a look at the van after I had got it built out and said, you know, you don't really need to run all these wires back and forth. You can get a grounding block. I think there's a better name for them, but I just bought that at Home Depot for a few dollars. And, you know, I said, why didn't you tell me this before I built the van out? A little bit too late now. Now, I am really done with this project, although I do have one more thing I'm going to try. It's a little experiment with the lighting here. I've been looking for some new lighting to replace this really rather harsh lighting, but then it occurred to me the other day that I could just remove a couple of these lights, and that would drop down the brightness and the harshness of it quite easily without having to buy anything new. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to try to pull out two of these. That will leave me with a little bit of a dark spot here and there from time to time. So to make up for that, I have another little light here. This is one of those daylight simulating lights, and I think people use these for depression, maybe symptoms. I bought it as a studio light because I was hoping that it would have good enough light to work with my camera, which it does. Super good deal. I found it at a TJ Maxx store, and it was one of their red tag discount things because it had just been kicking around the store for a while, so it was like 12 bucks. It's been a really good light, although I haven't used it a whole lot, other than when I'm recording a video now and then I'll plug it in and use it. But now that I have that USB port available, since I took out the USB for the salt lamp, I've plugged this in over there, and this will allow me to be able to use this over here. I actually took this apart and I screwed in a giant magnet on the bottom of this, so this will just stick right up to the ceiling of the van. It works right through the cork because I have a very thin piece of cork over on this side. So that'll be really cool because that way I'll be able to kind of move it around as I need to, and I'll still be able to pull it off of there and use it for camera work from time to time when I need it, which is what I bought it for. So just one last little thing here, and then I can just, get on with enjoying my coffee. Or I'll just enjoy my coffee a little bit right now too. Well, there we have it. So we have one project completed and one experiment started. I'm not quite sure how the experiment is going to go on, but that's why I'm calling this an experiment, because I can make some changes as we go. I do like this light a little bit better because I can adjust the level of the light as I need it. I've got it on the low setting at the moment, but that seems like it's going to be good. And I still have the lights that I pulled off of the ceiling, so I can always add those back if I need to, or I can just add one back if I need to. So we'll just mess with that over the next few days and see if it's better. I like it much better so far. Now the salt lamp, I am very happy with. I think that is a complete success. Well, we'll see about the drippiness of it. Hopefully the little cork coaster will help with that. Also, I'm hoping that the heat that this new bulb is generating will help. It is starting to warm up, although it took it at least a couple of hours before I started to be able to feel some warmth coming off of it. So I don't know if I'm going to actually be running it that long every day, but it works. So I'm happy with that. And the last thing I was just going to mention is that, I don't always show these little projects that I do because, again, I think I said this before, I don't know what I'm doing. I just figure stuff out as I go. I did try to build the van out as simply as I possibly could. So that's why I've got exposed wiring and things. That's on purpose because over time, I've just found that I use the van differently than I may have done in the past. So, like for instance, lately I've been doing a lot of editing on my iPad right here, and so all of this extra lighting that I had up here has not been good. It's just caused a lot of glare and adding to some eye strain on me, and so it's nice to be able to just change out this really quickly. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I had a really well finished off build. That's why I don't like to bury wiring, because I want to be able to get to it. And, one, I might need to fix it over time. But two, the bigger thing is I might need to just make some adjustments to where the light is, because I just use the van differently as time goes on, it seems. I've said in the past that if I ever build out another van, I would do it even simpler. I'd make an even simpler build just so that I can get to things a little bit easier, especially with repairs. When stuff breaks and you've got to kind of dig through stuff or take stuff apart to have to fix something, it's a real pain. So just having everything open and being able to get to everything is just so much better, even though a lot of people are going to tell me, oh, I wouldn't do it that way, or you should do it this way. I don't care what somebody else tells me I should have done with my van. I don't care, I do my van this way because it's just so much better for me in the long run. And the thing that I try to get across to everybody is, you should build out your van to the way it's going to work best for you. So if you want a really nice, pretty build out, great, do it that way. But definitely don't listen to somebody that's telling you need to do it this way or you need to do it that way. You know the way you need to do it. You know the way you want to have your van looking. You know how you're going to have the van be comfortable to you. So yeah, the people that get after me about stuff like this, they haven't watched to this point, so they're not gonna get all angry and offended because they only watched the first 2 minutes. They've left their big long comment telling me all the things I did wrong, which I don't I don't read those comments, so I don't really care that they leave them. Just kind of silly, you know. Although it's really good, comments are really good for the old YouTube algorithm. So, you know, if somebody wants to leave a silly comment that I'm not going to read, go right ahead and leave those. You know, those help me in the long run. Yeah. Maybe I should have said that earlier. You know, leave your crazy comments. No, actually, I get enough crazy comments. I don't need all those. Anyway, it's getting to be about dinner time for me. So I think I will sign off. Funny little video here, I know. So if you've actually made it this far and watched through the whole thing, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.